Phillies boat across the edge of town. And I told the boys my story, and we had another round. Oh, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, fight. We'll drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, fight. And if I see a pretty girl, I'll sleep with her tonight. Yeah, so drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, fight.
Welcome to the Drink and Phight Podcast. We're back after a bit of a hiatus. We're going to do these, it seems, once every 12 weeks, according to Austin's busy schedule.
Yeah, whenever Austin's feeling up to the task, I suppose, right?
You're done Red Dead Redemption. You're ready.
Yeah, I killed Red Dead Redemption. I got a win on Fortnite today. So, my priorities are all in order. So now I can finally focus on, less important things.
Like going to Flyers games, reporting on them for your job, doing the podcast, another part of your job.
They've been away. Listen here. I'll be there. Relax.
You were just in, you can't go to Phoenix. You were just in New Mexico, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, all right. You pay for my plane tickets, and then I'll pay for the rest. So I'm here with Tim Sullivan.
You get in for free.
I'm here. Shut up.
I don't need my name. They know who we are.
I'm here with Tim Sullivan, my de facto father that texts me all the time and shits on me about, being too busy for his fucking schedule. My name's Austin Mitchell. We'll hear lots about all the times that Tim was pissed at me the last couple of weeks because we've been on a bit of a hiatus, but we're back.
Do we have to introduce ourselves every week? People know they're listening in to join the Drink and Phight podcast. You don't know. Hey, this is Joe Rogan. Welcome to Joe.
This is the second one. It's not like it's called the Tim Sullivan and Austin Mitchell podcast. Our names aren't even on the picture.
The only people that listen to it are people that we know that we've sent it out to. They know who we are, and they'll hear eventually, all
right, but let's be a little bit hopeful here.
Oh, okay, I'm being hopeful. Hey, I'm Tim Sullivan here for the Fight Podcast.
We're gonna be hopeful that we're, that someone that we don't know will listen to this and listen to us bitch about, sports. As far as sports go. We'll be talking about, obviously, all the Philly sports teams, where they are, what they're doing, mostly the Flyers and the Sixers, as per the usual, even though we really haven't set up a usual because this is only our second podcast.
It's technically our third.
Technically our third. We had some technical difficulties.
Your production is horrible.
Yeah, this is why we need a third party to come in. Basically, we need Liam to tell us how to do things correctly because we suck.
My insult for you was going to be that I'm sitting with Austin Mitchell, Mr. Reliable. Based on podcast abilities and your ability to actually show up to do the show. So,
fair enough.
I'll save that one down the road. I'll reuse it.
Yeah, well, they already heard it, so we can can that one. So yeah, Mr. Reliable here. So first, let's just jump into it. We'll talk about the Flyers because obviously that's my favorite, and we'll just talk about them because that gets me going a bit. They're about to finish off the tail end of their road trip. By the time this comes out, they'll have already played the Arizona Coyotes, so we'll see. You guys will know more than we know in this moment. But they have 5 of 6 points so far on the road trip. They beat the Kings and the Ducks. They've been playing really well. Provorov said that the road trips helped them a lot. They're spending a lot more time together. They're dealing with just the team rather than dealing with a lot of home stuff from being in Philly. They've been dinners and, practices, wake up, go to sleep all together. So that's really helped them a lot. They lost to the Sharks, which is definitely the best California team. So, it makes sense, but we still got a point out of that. Is
58-year-old Joe Thornton still playing for the Sharks?
He is, and he's scoring against the Flyers still. So that's
is he really?
Yeah, that's
Thornton's got to be. He's got to be either at 40 this year or a little bit over 40.
I think he's 105.
It seems like
the last time I looked, I think he was 105 years old.
He's been playing. It's not like he hasn't been productive. The guy's been good.
And now he looks
seems
even
like he's
older.
been there forever.
He looks even older without that beard, which I didn't even know was possible. Now Brent Burns is the only bearded hero on that team. But, the Flyers played really well against them for the better part of the first 2 periods. The third period, Sharks really took over. It was kind of a surprise that we got to overtime because the Flyers really folded. But, they've been on a long road trip, so, fatigue fatigue is understandable at that point. They really started dropping the ball in the third. We still got the point, and then we lost like 12 seconds into overtime. So, that is what it is.
I got two questions for you.
Shoot.
The first one is, who is the next player that Gudis takes out in practice? Because he took out Couturier last year in the playoffs. Now he took out Provorov, about a week and a half ago?
Yeah.
I mean, Provorov stayed in practice and everything, but he still hit him. Like, you got to get your head on straight. You can't.
I mean, he's always been that type of player that, like...
yeah, but not in the games anymore.
I know, but act first, think later kind of thing. So, I mean... We can only be thankful that he's not that so much that way in games recently. But you can never call it. I mean, I wrote an article last season after he kind of turned his game around, and then he had like one or two bad games where he was just making boneheaded plays, and I was like, we just got to get rid of this guy. And it's a shame because he's a solid defenseman as far as our like bottom tier defensemen go. You compare him with Prov or Ghost or whatever, and he's really not too much of a detriment to their line, but when he starts being stupid, that's just,
I feel like when he came over in the trade with Tampa Bay, he really stepped up his game, became a solid defenseman, and like you said, he would make boneheaded plays. And he took a bad penalty here, he fought at the wrong time when it really hurt the Flyers. And
especially, it resonated a lot when he first got here, when he was doing stuff like that, because we had just finally gotten rid of people like Dan Carcillo and Zach Ronaldo. And then, we had Ryan White, and I always thought Ryan White was the better version of both those two previous players because, I mean, he still brought something to the table rather than just his energy. But even at the end of the day, all those players, they have their place in the NHL, but in a Flyers team that's had the reputation that it's had for so long for being bullies.
Do you think Gudis do you think he's lost his edge? Because when he played and he was careless with the penalties, he always would get an elbowing, a high sticking. There was a bunch of times it seems like that he was getting reviewed by the league for a hit to the head or leaving his feet, something ridiculous. And you would say, yeah, he's played a great game except he had this stupid penalty. And now he's not taking those stupid penalties,
but he's also
his game.
Not, yeah, I mean, I think his game has probably suffered. I think that's true to quite a few players on the Flyers, though. I mean, we don't see Wayne Simmons fight nearly as much, and that's an aspect of his game that really made him such a value to their team before he really started scoring in bunches like he does. Well, he has in the past. I mean, he's a little bit lagging behind right now, but he's still third in scoring on the Flyers. And yeah, he's on the third line. He's trying to support players like that. He's been taken off the first power play a couple
also
times.
He's coming off of, I mean, he's injured legs and shoulder and back and all. You're not going to get right out and fight and all. I mean, how many games are they into the season now?
What'll this be?
Or this is the first month, so they can't be more than 10 or 12 games in, right?
Yeah. I mean, he definitely has dealt with injuries, and of course the type of play that he's always used is not one that's very kind to your body. But at the same time, I mean, that was a huge aspect of his game that we've lost, and which is fair, which is okay as long as other players are bringing that same aspect to the table. But we haven't seen that. And like Simmons was always kind of our energy guy, that him and Braden Shen, and we don't have Shen anymore, and we don't have that type of Wayne Simmons anymore. So we do need a type of player that'll step up and, drop the gloves and not get rocked like a lot of our players have been doing lately.
That guy is 3 months away from coming to the ice.
Yeah,
his name is Sam Morin.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if they still have faith in him or whatever. I mean, it would be nice.
They signed a 3-year extension. They gotta put him on the ice.
Of course,
a 3-year extension.
They have to put him on the ice, but whether they give him the range to do what he wants to do, I mean, the dialogue seems to be right now that you have to really reel it in, and a player like that should really be given free range. If you take a bonehead penalty once every 10 games, it's really not that big a deal as long as you're clearing the crease, which is the Flyers' number one issue right now. I think most of their goals have come from bodies not being picked up in front of the net, which we can.
Well, I think the last podcast we did that didn't make it was the one when Andy McDonald was like 12 feet away from the guy who was
he floats. I mean, a lot of our guys really don't have a net foot presence, and I mean, a lot of them can make up for that in scoring or in their shutdown D or whatever. But we need at least one person who can go out there against the opposing team's best lines and just kind of clear that crease and make sure that nobody's left unaccounted for. And I mean, that also has to come from the goalies and their communication with their defensemen. And, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're standing in front of the net and you are just floating around the front of the net, if somebody's screaming at you, if your goalie's screaming at you, and there's a guy wide open out front, you're going to pick him up eventually. And that just doesn't seem to, that communication doesn't seem to be existing there. And that has a lot to do with a lot of our goalies not being here and playing for all that long. And when they are, when they do get the groove,
Mr. 3-year extension, Michael Neuwirth, who's back on the injured list.
Yeah, I mean, he played one game and left right away. So exactly, like we have Calvin Pickard and we have, Peter Mrazek that comes in and plays for a little while, and then we let Anthony Stolarz come up for a little while, and Alex Lyon and whatever. We don't have a guy that has that relationship with his defenseman like they really, really should, because none of our goalies are really show-stopping right now and making that crease their crease and owning that number one goalie position. So I mean, all that kind of stuff plays into it.
So
but,
is this part of the build where, I mean, there's only, I mean, I could say it's your whole lifetime of 23 years has been, this goalie is just enough, or we're waiting to get a little bit better to have, like, you figure that.
It's absolutely a piece that's been missing for at least my entire experience as a Flyers fan.
Alex Lyon, who's supposed to be a pretty good goalie. Then you have, what's his name, who's the kid in AHL right now? Carter Hart. And then is it Felix Sandstrom? Is he the other one that plays in Sweden? That's the other supposed to be a really good goalie, but he's still in Sweden.
Yep.
So you have three guys that are considered pretty good. I know Hart's he's the gold standard as far as
gem.
and Sandstrom.
And I mean, we've completely forgotten about Anthony Stolarz as well. I mean, he was at one point supposed to be our, he really reminded a lot of people of like a Ben Bishop type. And when Ben Bishop was on the Lightning and he was doing so well on that team and everything before, Andrei Vasilevsky came out and became one of the best goalies in the league, Ben Bishop was absolutely the type of player that you could build a team around and could be just sturdy enough to get you there. And we just haven't had a player like that. So when we got Stolarz eventually in our system and he showed that type of play, he really got us excited for goalies, and then we just went on a drafting spree, and eventually found Carter Hart, it just always feels like it's gonna come, like we're gonna get him, we're gonna get this guy, and we just.
But there's a couple of things like Stolarz. It seems like Stolarz has been around forever to me, and he's still 24 years old, which is fine. The guy's had 3 ACL, MCL injuries in the past 3 years, or
injuries
maybe
have absolutely hindered him.
That's really destroyed him. When is enough? Like, when does Hextall look at the coach and look at the talent we have and say you're not using them correctly? Like, they put Sanheim on the third pairing, I get that, but he also had been playing the best, and then Sanheim gets 13 minutes the other day when the guy's playing the best, and then same thing with Scott Lawton. Scott Lawton, when they put him on the left wing, it was like Giroux. I'm not saying that he was on par with Giroux, but they put Scott Lawton on the left wing, and next thing you know, everybody's saying, man, Lawton's really found his spot on this left wing. He's doing very well. He got like 5 points in 4 games, and then next thing you know, they scratch him. And then
it really it feels like overcorrecting on the part of Hackstall, and I've said that forever, that like it just feels like his fingerprints are always all over every mistake that happens, whether he knows it or not. You hear it over and over, and you've heard it a lot recently with our penalty kill struggles, that like it's execution is our issue.
Who's in charge of the power play and the penalty kill?
Ian LePerriere, which who doesn't love Lappy? He's a legend in Philly, and I would never, it's sentiment. It's me saying like I would never not want him on our bench.
Why is he a legend?
Well, he's just growing up. He's a legend to me because I didn't live through it.
Took the puck to the face and looked like he was dead on the ice, and came back and he got the award for like most heart, and I get all that.
Okay, but the Flyers have won 2 Stanley Cups. Our legends, like what we consider legends, don't necessarily always always line up with being the best player on the ice. It's the players that, I mean, Ron Hextall was statistically not a good goalie, but we look at him, he's in the conversation for one of the best Flyers goalies all time, and that's just because of the energy and the fun that he brought to the ice. He made it a show. And that's
also
just,
was a great goalie for 5 years.
Yeah.
The guy won the
That's
playoff
fair.
MVP when they lost to the Oilers. He won Rookie of the Year. Did he win a Vezina?
I don't know.
I don't think he did. But I used to look at it like until he got traded, the year he got traded in the Lindros trade, he had four or 5 years where he was really a great player. And then it falls apart, and he always had his moments and all, but he was still a great player. Leperrier was never the guy that, like, I would be happier if they called John LeClair and said, hey, we want you to run that. Like, look at LeClair. 3 straight 50-goal seasons. He was really the guy that, like, he helped make Eric Lindros. So
Of course, he was part of the Legion of Doom. Him and Renberg were, they earned their places in Flyers lore and everything, a lot more than players like that did. But you also
he was
have
out there on the power play.
That's
He was
just
out
the
there on
way that
penalty
it's
kill.
always been, though, with the Flyers, and especially like in upper management positions for them. It's always been someone who at least played for the Flyers, or I mean, Craig Berube, that man. What did he do to deserve a head coaching job? And he certainly wasn't a good player. He reminded me a lot of like Zach Rinaldo, and then you have that player running your bench, and I mean that's just the way that they've always overvalued people that have been in the system beforehand. So to give Ian LePerriere a pass when we've had the worst or the second worst or the bottom tier penalty kill and I mean at times power play. Over and over and over again, with the talent that we have and the shutdown guys that we do have on our roster, not using them correctly, you can't call it execution over and over and over again. And that seems to be the problem with a lot of things going on with, Sanheim being moved down to the third pair or this or that or this or that. It has a lot more to do with over-managing and not letting a player get comfortable in a position than it does with execution, in my opinion.
So when do you say to Hextall enough is enough?
I think that probably should have already been said, but we also don't run the team. So what are you gonna do? We can only say so much from the outside perspective, and it seems like Hextall has a lot of faith in Hextall. A lot of it misplaced, in my opinion, in certain aspects, but in other aspects, I do think Hextall does an all right job. But at some point, you do have to say, all right, listen, the team that you have on the ice may not be a Stanley Cup caliber team, but it's at least above a 500 team, and you're underachieving, and you either have to answer for that or be replaced. And I think that probably already should have been said to him. Maybe it has. Who knows?
I mean, the Flyers right now are 6th in the Eastern Conference, and you're looking at 6 wins, 7 losses, and an overtime loss. And then you look at the goalies. Like I looked at Elliott, and they said. Elliott, I think, past 5 games, he's got a .935 save percentage. He's around 2.6 on the goals against. And they're like, that's great, but it still hasn't helped the beginning of the year when he had like an 800 save percentage.
Oh, of
course,
yeah.
His goals against average was 4. So he's still over 3, and I think just around 90% or just like 890 or 880. Like, you're just limiting the amount of shots, and he's still giving up 2 or 3 goals. It's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the way that we've been looking at it, though, especially with these stopgap goalies that we have, is the fact that we're forced to evaluate them on more of a the past 5 game basis than their entire season, because we're like, all right, well, they're hot right now, so let's just ride them out until a monumental collapse happens, which it always does, and it doesn't get handled right away.
What about you have Giroux? You have Konechny, and who's your Couturier is your first line. Your second line's Patrick, Voracek, and who's on the left wing now?
Lindblom.
Okay, so Lindblom. Would you agree that those 6 guys are, I'm not saying great or elite players, but are they...
That's a serviceable top 6, absolutely.
Very, not serviceable. They're very, very, 6 individually. They're very talented guys.
Yeah, they are young though. You always have to consider that they are absolutely young.
If you have offensive guys, and we talked about this with Couturier before, you have an offensive guys. So you have 2 pretty good top lines.
And a third line who, at least over this road trip, who has been
we have
Vorobiev up as well.
You have
Vorobiev when he plays. You have Lawton, who's been playing extremely well, all things considered. You have Simmons, who is always going to be Simmons. He's still third on the team in scoring.
So you have three decent lines and 2 lines filled with very good players. Are they playing poorly because they can't play freely as offensive players because they're constantly worried about the defensive lapses and the poor goaltending? Does that contribute to the Flyers not? You look at a team like this with like Giroux and Couturier and then Konechny when they got on the line last year, those guys were lighting it up. And Giroux over 100 points last year. Couturier was his career high. I think he was up at like 79 or 80 points. And Konechny had 40 and I think 30 of those 40 were after he joined that top line. And then Voracek's going to get you 80. Patrick seems to be coming into his own. You're talking about very good offensively skilled guys that aren't playing offensive because they're constantly looking at what's going on defensively because our goalies are shit and our defense is playing like shit. So they can't be as free because they can't depend on, hey, if we take off and the 2 of us go out, if we lose the puck and we get a turnover, what happens? We're giving up a goal. It's almost guaranteed. If the other team gets any kind of odd man rush, our team is shit. The goalie can't.
The goalie's not going to bail you out. The defense isn't catching up to anybody. Mostly because you have guys like Ghost and Sanheim who take that liberty to take that extra step into the zone, which gets them, a lot. It raises the percentage of us scoring, but it also heavily. How many times this season and how many times over the course of the last 5 years have you seen the Flyers finally get their first sustained pressure of the game? They're getting everybody into it. They're getting the crowd into it. And you're watching, and they're taking shots, and they're not taking shots when they should. But either way, they're still getting sustained pressure, and you get an odd man rush the other way, and it's a goal. And it's almost always that way. And then momentum flips. This team is young and inexperienced, so they don't know how to come back from that. And that's just the way that it is from that point forward. And we lose the game from that. From that, that's why that first goal. And I mean, we've won 2 of the last 3 games. All 3 games, we've had the first goal of the game. The only time that we've trailed over the course of the last 3 games while going 2-0-1 was when that goal was scored in overtime. We haven't trailed a single second of the last 3 games, and that has absolutely helped their at least confidence to stay in the game. So,
at what point do you, as a coach, and I know we'll talk about the Sixers in a little bit, but it borders on the same thing when you have a good number of talented young players. At what point do you stop trying to control them and make them – I think that's a mark of a bad coach. If you're trying to make good, talented players play a system that doesn't work correctly with their skills, then you're basically handcuffing those players, whether it's the Sixers or the Flyers. And like I said, we'll get into the Sixers in a little bit, but when you're looking at somebody like Couturier, and we discussed this, his first 6 years in the NHL or 5 years, they got him on the third line saying, you're a defensive center. Why? Because the guy can really shut down players like Crosby, Malkin. He's shutting down those top line guys. And then everybody's mad at him saying, well, the guy's not putting up 70 points. Well, he's playing with Laterra and Weiss, and you're not letting him be a player. But now that we do have those players, at what point do you stop with the bullshit, stop with the setup offense and all, and just let these guys go out there and say, hey, go out there and score fucking goals? We have, if you look, and I'm not sure, like I said, the left wing spot with young people and all on there going in and out and all, especially with, let's say JVR's back and he comes healthy at the second half of the year. JVR, Patrick, Voracek, Konechny, Giroux, and Couturier. 6 players that you know can score points. And you're going to handcuff them by putting them in a slower system where you have to bring the puck up and do something stupid and try to move into position. Let these fucking guys play. Go out there and say, yo, we need goals. We're going to give up some goals because here's the deal. They're playing that shitty system that Hackstall has in place, and we're not scoring goals. But it's also, we're not stopping any goals. They're not helping stop goals because our goaltenders are fucking horrible. And our defense plays half-assed because we have a couple of bad players on it. At what point do you just say, you know what, go out there and you know what, we'll give up 4 goals a game. As long as we score fucking 6, who cares?
Right. So you're saying you're saying a system is fine, and if it does handicap a player a bit, is fine as long as they're stopping the goals that they're game planning for. But they're not in this situation, so they should be given a little bit more free reign.
Obviously, for players on a power play and a penalty kill, you need to have systems in place, whether you're playing a 1-2-1 defense or you're playing a box defense or a tight box on the defensive side, or when you're offense, you're circling the puck and rotating around when you're on the power play. Those are things that you want to have those systems in place. But guess what? These guys have been playing hockey their whole lives. They know how to fucking do it. So let them go and be a little bit, not wild, but let them fucking play. You're holding these guys back in the name of a system.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that comes back full circle back around to the whole execution thing. They have this system in place that they think is going to work, and they keep saying that it's going to work. But when repeatedly it does not work, and you have these players on top of already being handcuffed by a poor system that is obviously not working in their favor, on top of that, they're also not being able to score and be giving that free range. I agree that it has a lot to do with the poor system, and it's just not fair. And they should absolutely be able to play their game and play the type of game that they want, and just see how that goes. At least in this position where we're still sub 500, they should be able to get that free reign that they want.
But now, at the end of the year, when Couturier doesn't have 80 points, and Giroux doesn't have 100 points, and Voracek doesn't have 80, and Patrick doesn't have 60, and Konechny doesn't have 60, everybody's going to look at them and say, like, well, Giroux had a freak year, and now he's come back down to his deteriorating. He's 30 years old. He's going to be this and then that, and Couturier was never a first-line center, and people start picking apart the players when you actually should be picking apart the system. When you say you have a coach that's not allowing these guys to play up to their potential. And I get it. Like, in 14 games, Giroux's got 14 points. Voracek's got 14 points. Simmons has 9. But Couturier's at 5. He's got 4 goals and an assist. Why? Because they keep moving players in and out of that line, and he's not getting the chances to do it. And now they have to play a come-from-behind game where they're
right.
Trying
but
to still
I
set
also
up
think that
systems.
you can't completely attest that to a poor line, because he only lost Konechny for a couple games. That first line's remained mostly intact. That just comes down to maybe truly it may have been that type of year for Couturier, which I personally don't believe. But from a coach's standpoint, it's hard to just say, like, oh, well, Couturier is this type of player. It's not like he's had 5 years of solid production on an offensive level. Giroux is still producing on that line, or freely through the power play and stuff like that. So it's obviously not like the line isn't producing anything. Konechny's having an all right year. He's had a couple games where he's looked more like himself as per like what we saw last year. So do I believe that first line is necessarily hindered? I don't, because there's games their game plan switches a lot, to where some games they're tasked with playing against the top line from the other team, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're put out there, and most of the time when they're put out there with a less talented line, that line does score, or at least has solid chances. So the first line really hasn't, over the course of this road trip at least, really hasn't produced like the second and third line has. So realistically, I think it's a case-by-case basis.
But Giroux, it's not. Giroux is one of your better defensive forwards. Couturier, already everybody knows, is probably the top defensive forward we have. He's one of the top defensive forwards in the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you can tell that by his Selke finishes and all. I mean, he was top 5 and top 7 and all, but last year he was second in the voting. And you look at it, but now look at your goalies. Brian Elliott, .893 save percentage. Calvin Pickard, .851. Michael Neuvirth, .727. Elliott's your best with a 3.1 goals against average. He's 4-5. Like, you can't. These guys have to be thinking defense first because their defense isn't making
Of course they do, but the best players in the league can adapt to that type of situation. And I don't think that a lot of goals have come against that first line, so I do think like they are doing their job defensively, because just because you're the best players in the league doesn't mean that the whole team and the defensive end of it, the best defensive pairing shouldn't have to be out there every single time that the best forwards are out there in order for the best forwards to score. The best forwards can create their own opportunities, and I do think they do.
Is anybody asking Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Malkin, Connor McDavid, are they asking these guys to just, hey, listen, man, you really got to play defense because our defense sucks and our goalies suck?
No. And
that's why those guys wind up scoring goals, but when they give up 4 games,
their teams are also further along in their progression, though, and their coaches can also have more leeway and more players that they can task with the jobs that those players shouldn't have to do. But when you do
whose
see
fault
the
is it seems like this? Because you have a very high number of talented young players, and Giroux, Voracek, and Simmons, for being those 3 guys that have been here for a bunch of years, and everybody looks at them, they're the leaders, and they're going to give them the hardest time. But guess what? They're still 29 and 30 years old. You're right in the middle of your hockey prime. When is it Hextall saying, Jesus, we really have to do something? Unload them. Take a cap hit. Get the goalies up here. Like, let Lyon play. I know that Hart's had a hard time in the minors right now, starting off his career with the AHL. But again, it's not like the Phantoms are an amazing team and all. He's getting thrown in and he's playing against actual players, not in the juniors, and he'll adapt. But
yeah,
you have
the progression has to be there.
You have Sandstrom, you have Lyon, you have Hart. And then you have Stolar still, who came up and played. I mean, what did Stolars have? 92 saves in that playoff game in the AHL last year?
Yeah.
You have guys who can play, yet you're still sitting with Elliott and fucking Michael Neuvirth. Like, you have the cap space. Just fucking let him go. Let him go. Just cut it. Cut your losses. Why can't you say that? You have $8 million or $10 million in cap space. Cut him. Cut the fucking – it's not like 3 years ago when Hextall, or 5 years ago when Hextall took over, and – you were talking about sending players down to the minors for 2 days because you had somebody coming off the injured list that you had to deem healthy, suit him up, and then send him down or cut him or try to trade him and all. You only had $200,000 to play with in a salary cap. You're talking about having $8 or $9 million in a salary cap. Cut fucking Neuvirth. Don't pick up Pickard. Bring Lyon up. Sit Elliott and say, guess what? We're not winning games anyway. So
yeah, I can agree with you on that one. I can agree that. And I do believe that at some point during the season, at least Carter Hart or Alex Lyon will be brought up and will be given a fair shot, whether that be to injury or whatever. It may not be, Hackstall or Hextall.
I would think you'll see
decision that they think is the right decision, but I do think they will get an opportunity, and we'll see that happen. But obviously, both Hextall and Hackstall think that the team should have a better record than they do, and that they are playing better. I mean, you heard after last game that Hackstall truly believed that the third period was the Flyers' best period of the game, when in reality that was the game that they had the most pressure against them in their own end. So, I mean, it does come down, and I tend to blame Hackstall for most of the team's issues, and that's kind of where I'm at with it, where I don't think he reads and analyzes a game correctly or a player correctly or whatever that may be, and I do think that's where most of the problems lie. To where he'll take one good performance and say that's the type of player that player should be on a game by game basis, and then that's a bad coach.
Yeah,
because the coach that says,
we could definitely agree on that, though.
He's like Brett Brown for the Sixers played T.J. McConnell a lot at the start of the season. He said, I'm going to give Markelle Fultz a ton of time, and we got to see what we have in Fultz. And then Fultz was getting 18 minutes. T.J. McConnell's getting 30, 32 minutes. And he said, McConnell's a good energy guy, and he's worked hard. Okay, but the talent isn't there. If the talent is that much lower than another player, then why is he there? Why is Dale Weiss on the lines and Lawton has a couple of good games, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're going to take him out. And I think he actually wound up playing the game that they originally said that they were going to move him off the third line. and they were going to put Weiss up there, and they wound up putting Weiss on the fourth line. But again, you're talking about taking a guy out who just put up a couple of goals and an assist.
I think it's overcoaching, and I've always said this about Hacksaw since the day that he came over here, is that I truly believe that it's just overcoaching. I think that he sees something, and he feels the need to act on it rather than let it play out. And I think it does kill a lot of chemistry and a lot of momentum that these lines get, and a lot of the momentum that the young players, like, I mean, Lawton, he's not old. He's still susceptible to confidence issues and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we see it in Giroux, and Giroux has been a top tier player since, I mean, he burst onto the scene. So, I mean, confidence issues are a big deal in this league, are definitely underrated, I believe. And when you take a player down, and even when you tell the media, oh, it's not a demotion or yada yada yada, it's just the game plan, it's a scheme. At the end of the day, these players they do feel what, like, the situation that they're put into. And I think it's just overcoaching on the part of Hacksaw. I believe that he overcorrects on players, he misreads the value of a player repeatedly. I believe that I mean, prime example is Andrew McDonald, who, you know, drives me up a wall, drives most of the Flyers fan base up a wall, because you just keep hearing how he's a leader and he has the A on his sweater when we're at away games and yada yada yada. Age of a player, experience of a player does not give them the right to make bonehead decisions like they do on a daily basis. I mean, you see his signature move, which Derek Bob, one of our writers at PSN, likes to point out to me whenever a GIF pops up on the internet of Andrew McDonald. He loves to flop on the ice, and if you have a young player that's entering the league for their first or their second year, repeatedly watching, you know, the supposed leader of your defensive core and Andrew McDonald, the supposed, like, veteran, doing that repeatedly, you're gonna start to mimic his actions and think that that's what your coach wants to see, and yada yada yada. So
that takes you back to LaPerriere. Like, LaPerriere gave a lot of effort. He did well. He wasn't that great of a player. Then take Andy McDonald off the fucking ice and put him behind the bench and say, yeah, be a leader there.
Yeah,
Just be a leader and help out the team.
If he can be a leader, and if he truly is a leader, I mean, we're not there on a daily basis, day in and day out on practices and stuff. He may know all the right things to say, but he obviously doesn't lead on the ice. Like, they always say that that Giroux is more of a like an act first kind of guy, where, like, he's not necessarily going to sit there and lecture you and tell you the right way to skate and the right way to shoot and yada yada yada. He'll say it in passing in the middle of a game, but he'll show you the right ways to play. I mean, a prime example is when Ghost came up, and Ghost, in the first couple of games, he, like, burst onto the scene and he had the shot, but he wasn't taking the shot because, I mean, it was his first couple of games in the NHL. He's not going to take over a game because it's a team that he's walking onto. It's not his team already. So Giroux, it's just in passing in the middle of a game. Yo, shoot more. You got a good shot. Shoot more. I'm gonna get the puck to you more. Shoot more. Like, have that confidence, and that leadership through Giroux is where I think his leadership is more validated, where with Andrew McDonald, you don't necessarily hear about that coming out through the media, that he does say things that, you know, get a player going, or he does rev a player up. How can you say
things when you're making mistakes?
Exactly.
How can you tell Provorov, who's considered one of the top 5 young defensemen in the league and one of the top defensemen in the league, how do you tell Provorov what to do when you're making 12 mistakes to his 2? How do you tell Gauthier not to do something when you're making the mistakes? How do you even Sanheim? How do you tell Sanheim, don't do this? And I get instruction is one thing. If you're in practice and you're saying to a guy, hey, look, you might want to look for this or you might want to look for that, or if you're on the bench and you say to a guy, hey, look for a certain player, the way he moves something, or you obviously, from playing throughout your career, Andy McDonald's been around. He's going to know players. He's going to know their tendencies. And that's what a lot of the practice and a lot of the film study is player tendencies. So it's easy for him to say, hey, look, make sure when so-and-so gets the puck, you're going to see that if they tap it twice on the inside of their stick, they're usually going or cut back left on the backhand. But it's little things like that you know. But how do you tell him, hey, man, don't jump up on this rush, or don't do this and all when you're falling down, or don't slide over to the center, because you're not sliding over to the center and you're giving up open goals to a guy sitting down in front. But you tell Sanheim, hey, make sure you stick with your guy. You're just making that guy as poor as you are. And
it doesn't matter how great your words are and how great your instruction are. Eventually, players start to lose faith when you're not doing exactly what you're saying. If you can't execute practice what you preach. And I do believe that
if Giroux tells you to shoot more, you fucking shoot more. The guy is a proven scorer. He's a proven talent.
Exactly.
He gets up there with Couturier and says, "Hey, listen, don't worry about it.
Giroux's words resonate with the young players.
If you put the puck over here on my stick, I'm going to get it. I don't care if you put it between your legs, behind your back. I don't care if you make a standard forward pass. I'm going to fucking put it on net." And the same thing and he looks at Couturier and says, "Hey, you're fucking talented. I know you can score goals. So here's the deal. You be ready at all times because I'm ready at all times." And then him and Couturier have career years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Konechny comes up on the line and
helps both of them because those are probably the two best defensively talented forwards on our team, and having them on the same line gives one the freedom to jump into the play, and the other one, jumping into a play is so much more effective when you know that there's a guy that has your back and that can jump back and do almost the same or a better job defensively than you can.
So you're the Flyers guy, and you just summed it up. You're talking about our two best offensive players jumping in on – our two best offensive players should be in the fucking front all the time. And I'm not saying like in front of the net down low like Simmons plays. No, I'm just saying they should be attacking at all times.
You're right.
And this team does –
and I do believe that's where our
this team sits and waits. They pass and pass and pass. Fire the puck on. When I watch Flyers games, I find myself constantly screaming, "Shoot the puck." Now, I'm not saying as soon as they come over to blue line, just blast it at the fucking goalie. But I'm saying, hey, when you're in there, stop passing and fire it on net. You have guys like Simmons. Patrick's a big kid. I understand that he's young. Couturier's a fucking big guy. Giroux's not a big guy, but Couturier, Patrick, Voracek, Simmons.
All guys that can be gritty in front of that net.
They're big guys that can be in front of the net. You're going to have James Van Riemsdyk, and you're going to have Simmons on your team. And Voracek again, too. Even though Voracek's more of a finesse guy, he really got good once he had Jágr, who was the same size. They're from the same area. He learned how to control that puck and use his weight and everything. Those guys are down low, just waiting to pick up goals. Like Scott Hartnell scoring 12 goals. All of a sudden, he comes, sits in front of the Flyers' net, and starts banging it. They're throwing pucks at the net, and Hartnell's scoring 30 goals a year.
I think the Flyers' current scheme has them looking for the perfect shot, has them looking for the finesse play, and I truly believe that we have so many gritty players on our team that have so much talent, but also are, whether it be young or whether it be a little bit, they've lost a step or whatever it may be with, Simmons or whatever. At the end of the day, for our offense not to be centered around a solid rebound control is kind of insanity to me, because the only player in the league that I know that is better within 5 feet of the net than Simmons is JVR. And now we have both of them, and when JVR comes back, why would you not throw everything that you have at that net? Because those two are the best players at that quick reaction off the goalie's blocker or the goalie's pad in the league. So to be looking for that finesse play from the between the hash marks or whatever it may be is just absurd to me. And I think that's where the scheme comes into play again. And I think that's where Hackstall's, inadequacies really jump up a lot, is where he doesn't recognize what he has and the talent that he has.
This is going to sound so bad when I say it, but I'm going to say it. It's like, and people will eat me up because you're looking at giving an honest analysis, but I'm going to give it a video game reference, is Hackstall's the old guy that played NHL 95 on Sega, and all he's trying to do is pass the puck around to get that one-timer that scores. Whereas the rest of the league is playing like they're young kids that have a PS4 and they know how to flip the puck and they know how to, and they're charging the net all the time. And I'm only saying this because I've played against my nephews, and I do the same thing. I'm trying for the one-timer, I'm trying for the 2-on-1 breakaway, but I'm moving the puck around trying to get that shot that should be perfect. Meanwhile, my nephews are charging in, they're firing pucks at the net, they're getting rebounds, and they're scoring, and I'm losing 12-2.
And you feel like you've had the better play, but and that's the same way that this
in hockey
it feels like with the Flyers.
I've had the better system.
That's how it felt with the Sharks, big time. And that's how it felt against the Sharks in their overtime loss. It felt like the Flyers were having the more their passing was more on point. They had more pressure in the offensive zone. But the Sharks are, an experienced team. They went to the Stanley Cup 2 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago now when they lost to the Penguins. And, they're a solid team. They just picked up Erik Karlsson. but they can adapt. And for a team to be able to adapt to another team, or whether they're they're a little slow that night or whatever it may be, the Sharks started playing gritty and they started playing off the odd man rushes that they recognize off the Flyers. And maybe that's not how they always play. Maybe they like to play their possession game, but that wasn't readily available through the first 2 periods of the game, and they changed that system. The Flyers stick to their guns. They stick to that chip and play hockey or whatever it may be. And I don't.
We've seen for the past 20 years, and it doesn't work. So exactly. let me ask you this: we got to stop the Flyers talk because I'm getting mad now. Do the Flyers fix it
this season?
And wind up with this season? Do you get that? I don't know. What do they? Do they get that 4 or 5 seed, or do they sneak into the playoffs at the 8, or do they not make the playoffs this year? What do you think right now?
Right now, and I'm usually an optimist. I was an optimist last year. But right now, in the current state that they're in, and in the current mindset that I think that Hackstall's having a really hard time getting out of, I think that at best they squeak in as a wild card. I don't think that they snag a Metro spot. I don't think they snag a top 3 in the Metropolitan Division. But you never know. They may turn around. But I do think that they're another borderline team.
You never know. I love it. You're like, you never know. You're like, you just said, I'm an optimist. You never know. Brian Elliott's going to be the Vezina this year after having a shitty 4 and 5 start to the season. And next year he's going to roll off 38 straight wins and have a 2.0 goals against average. The guy's going to be a stud. Fuck him.
Listen, a lot of our players are streaky. And I do think that if everybody gets on a roll through the last 2 or 3 months of the season, I do believe that we could absolutely squeak into the playoffs. But I don't think that, in January or, even February, I don't think that we're going to be looking at a team that is set up. And I think it'll be just like last year where we squeak in on the last day or the last 5 games of the season kind of thing. And I just think that that's where we are right now. And the system doesn't allow for us to be anything else but that. And
I do think that they can get hot. You realize you signed JVR. That's exactly
what I'm saying. They're streaky.
Next to Tavares, he was the second. It was 1-1A for free agent signings. Like Tavares, everybody said, "Oh man, that guy's it." And then right behind everybody was like, "All right, then you have JVR right there." And you look at it, he hasn't played. But what did he play? 2 games, maybe 1 game. I think if I look at it, he played 2 games and had 1 assist. And you're like, okay, it's the beginning of the season, new team. I get it. When he comes back, if he comes back healthy and they don't rush him back and he gets back onto the ice, now you're changing the whole dynamic of the team, and you can have the 2 lines that you really wanted. But do they change when he gets back on, or does Hackstall still sit there and say no? I know that we have guys that are proven that can put up a ton of fucking points. Let me take JVR and Simmons and put them out on the wing so that they can. And I don't mean the wing because they're playing the wing. I mean on the wing, like let me put them out by the circle and I'll see if they can get these one-timers and we get the good pass over and get this good shot. No, get them down low. Let them start scoring. Let everybody start attacking. Say the first 2 lines you attack. The 3rd line, you do a little mix. The 4th line, you're a defensive line. That's it.
Fair enough.
Got to fucking attack.
Yeah, I mean it needs to be. It will be very telling of where Hackstall is in his mindset when JVR does eventually return, whether or not the Flyers are in a good spot or a bad spot, whatever it may be, to see if he does shift the game plan a little bit, having another talented player like that who is so good, so close to the net, whether he pairs him with players that will help him to be there and give him the opportunity to stand out.
Voracek had what did Voracek have, 62 assists last year? Put the fucking guy on there with JVR and let him throw pucks into the net all the time. JVR will score 40 goals in 40 games. From JVR's
office, from on the right of the goal, just to dish into. I mean, he's done it with Simmer, and he's on the power play for years now. And to have him on an even strength line could really help us. And just to see how Hackstall handles having a player like that back in his arsenal will be very telling. So.
All right, let me ask you this, because we're finishing up on the Flyers, and I have to say this. I know that you're single. And I know that you're probably, because I'm not saying you're a creep, but you have that ability in you.
Up, Tim.
So I'm asking you a question. Do you realize how uncomfortable it makes me when we start this segment that you say, yeah, let's talk about the Flyers. That gets me going. And I'm on the other end of Skype with you while we're doing this.
God.
And I look and I'm like, I know that you're normally, when you have somebody else on the other side of Skype, it's not like a 40-year-old guy. It's probably a girl that you met on Tinder or something. And you're like,
I don't
yeah,
use
that's
Tinder,
what really,
Timmy.
like,
You don't know.
when you're Skyping and jerking off with some girl on the other side, is that what you say? Like, hey, do you say like, hey, let's talk about the Flyers? That really gets me going, because it's really creepy on my end. Like, I felt uncomfortable.
How long have you been thinking about this? 40 minutes now?
44 minutes and 38 seconds. As soon as you said it, I wanted to interrupt you and say it. And then I was like, man, we started talking about the Flyers, and I just looked at it. I was like, oh my God, I still have to get him with this, because we didn't insult each other to start. But I thought it was funny because the way you said it, you're like, let's talk about the Flyers. And you got real close to the mic and you're like, because that gets me going. And I was like, I feel like I should
play it back, because that is not what I sounded like, you friggin' creep.
I'm sure
before we started
I'm sure Mike Party's
listen
going to listen to this when he's in the gym. He's doing his squats. He's ready to run into a house and turn a fire off. And he's going to go back to the beginning. He's going to listen to it, and he's going to text you and go, hey, dude, you really sound like a fucking creep.
Shut up. Whatever. Let's just move on to your stupid-ass Sixers, since, you're feeling feisty right now. What's going on with the Sixers, Timmy?
I'm angry at the Sixers. They're just the same as Hacksaw.
I saw you get
Brett
into
Brown.
it with somebody that we work with on Facebook about Brett Brown, so I want you to really just go in about Brett Brown.
Who did I get into it on Facebook with?
Chris Bazaire.
Oh yeah. Well, Bazaire, I think he asked an honest question. It was about Fultz, and the thing with Fultz is, last year was a lost year for the kid, and he's coming back, and I think he's showing improvements in certain parts of the game. My problem after 11 games with the Sixers is their system. You have a guy like Simmons, who everybody agrees is one of the better passers in the league, and I get he's a 6'10" point guard. All the message boards light up about how he shouldn't be a point guard. He should be the power forward and let him pass out of that. But whether it's Simmons or Fultz, who are in essence the same style of player, that they need the ball in their hand, they bring the ball up and they hand the ball over just outside the three-point line on the elbow to either Embiid or Amir Johnson, whoever the center that's playing on the court at that time. A lot of times it's Embiid. Embiid runs a screen for J.J. Redick, now Landry Shamet, who's really come on in the past couple of games. And it's a poor system. Again, like I said it during the Flyer segment, is that you're looking at these guys that are talented and athletic and can move, and you're hindering them by saying, hey, you're one of the best passers in the league. Why don't you come over and hand it off to a center who's known for turnovers and should be down low? When he played down low the other day against the Pistons, he had 38 points and 8 rebounds in the first half, almost fouled out Andre Drummond and Zaza Pachulia. Each had like 3 or 4 fouls in the first half because they could not control Simmons or Embiid. And what they do is they come back in, they run the same set offense. Let these guys be free to attack. Just get out there and say, hey, fucking play basketball. Stop running the same stupid set. J.J. Redick was taken from the starting lineup, and what they did was Fultz is going to be the starting shooting guard, so you in essence have 2 point guards on the floor. And then they put Redick as the sixth man. Guy's averaging almost 19 points a game. But he's still averaging 30-some minutes. He comes in quite a lot. And then he starts the second half. And I get it. But you're running your offense for J.J. Redick. Robert Covington comes off the screens. Now Landry Shamet. The past 3 games, he's the rookie they drafted this past year. One of the best shooters in college last year. He came in, had a little bit of a foot injury, which was in his history in college. But when he started off in college, he was a 2 guard. And he came back and they moved him to the point. He's a shooter. The guy can flat out shoot. And now he's basically, J.J. Redick put his locker room seat next to his. He said, hey, sit with me. I'm going to work with you. And you could see from the first game where Shamet came out and was walking around, now he comes off the screens the same way Redick does and fires. The kid doesn't care about shooting. He's there to shoot, and he does. And the past couple of games, he's been in double digits. So, I mean, it's been really well. But, again, Brett Brown is hindering. He's killing Simmons because Simmons will get the ball 12 feet out with nobody around him and won't shoot it. He gets the ball and looks to pass. You're a 6'10" point guard. Shoot the fucking ball. And the big thing is, Brett Brown talked to him, told him to take more jump shots. He opened the game with 2 and then went right back to his normal stuff because Brett Brown has an offense he has to run. They're very frustrating right now at 6-5. They're undefeated at home and they're winless on the road. They got blown out by the fucking Nets yesterday. After thoroughly dominating the Pistons on Saturday, and again, their third quarters let everybody back in the game in the third quarter. They just go to shit, and I don't know why. I don't know if they don't come out attacking or they go, we have 20.
Coaching issue, probably?
The whole thing's a coaching issue. The whole thing for me is Brett Brown is great. He was a great serviceable bridge between a mediocre team that was starting the process and we're going to be shit for 5 years, and they were shit for 5 years. And Brett Brown was a great guy to get there and work with the young players. And his first head coaching job in the NBA, let him work with these young guys and on. He'll get a shot with another team. But now that the team's better, he can adapt to what these players can do.
So he's not a winning coach?
I don't believe so. I believe that last year was a fluke, that nobody thought Embiid was going to be healthy. Nobody thought Simmons was going to be as good as he was. Nobody thought that Fultz would miss pretty much the whole year. They just didn't think the Sixers were going to be that great. It was the process. Simmons is coming back after missing a year. Embiid's missed, in essence, 2.5 years. What's he going to be like? And Embiid wound up being a stud. Simmons wound up being a stud. Redick came in and was just annihilating everybody. Robert Covington wound up first-team defense because he played very well. Saric had a pretty decent year. He's just not the guy to take them to the second level. Or the next level, I guess.
Who do you think he's hurting the most? I mean, I'm sure it's probably down to Fultz and Simmons. Who do you think he's hurting the most?
Simmons. Simmons is 6'10", and he's got speed and he's got a handle, and he could drive the lane and score wherever he wanted. And instead, he's averaging 13 points a game. Donovan Mitchell, I think, out in Utah, was the top rookie with Simmons. They were going to be rookie of the year last year, and that was the big social media debate because they said, Simmons wasn't a rookie because he already had a year in the NBA, but he missed the whole year. And the whole thing is that Simmons is just not – he's so talented. He should be driving to the basket and trying to score. Donovan Mitchell shoots 23 shots a game. Simmons shoots like 11.
Right.
Just attack. Nobody can stop him. He can jump where his head is above the rim. He's 6'10", 6'11". Let him attack. Embiid's going to get his points. Embiid's an absolute if he keeps going the way he is, Joel Embiid will be MVP this year. He's already at 13 rebounds or 12 rebounds. He's averaging 29.5 points. He's the second leading scorer in the NBA. He's got 2 blocks, and he's not even concerned with MVP. He said, I want to be Defensive Player of the Year before I want to be MVP. He's still got to work on his turnovers, but that's part of Brett Brown's offense is giving him the ball.
Do you think the Sixers having a poor record will probably hinder his chances at MVP?
No, because in the Eastern Conference, I think they're still they should still wind up close to 50 wins, and they'll get it together. I mean, right now they're 6-5. They'll get it together. They'll go on a little bit of a run. Last year, they had the toughest schedule in the NBA in the first half of the season. They had the easiest schedule in the NBA for the second half of the season. The first half of the season, they wound up playing 500 basketball, which isn't bad. The second half, they went on a win streak at the end of the season when they were playing all shit teams, and they wound up winning I think it was 16 or 17 straight, including the playoffs. That's when they went up to 52 wins. But they could hit 48 to 53 this year if they get it all together. It's just that Brown is really – and his rotation is shit. It's absolute shit.
So, if you had to bet on it, how many wins do they have this year? Just so we have it.
48.
48 wins. And you think that gets them in?
At the beginning of the year, I thought they would go about 52 to 54. Last year they had 52. After seeing the way they play right now, if Brown doesn't change something about this team, then you're 44 to 48. You're over 500, and in the East, that should be plenty enough to get them into the playoffs. But they were considered, it was Toronto, Boston, and Philly were the top 3 teams, and now they're looking at it like, Philly. Toronto and Boston are great, but we're like Philly's just playing like shit. They can't win on the road. They're getting blown out left and right. And they look like they've never played basketball on the road. When they're at home, they look like they're the Warriors. Their turnovers are minimal. They're scoring out the ass. They're playing decent, not good, but decent defensive basketball. I mean, they're like 13th in defensive rating this year. Last year they were 3rd. And that's still with Embiid and Covington are both averaging. I think Covington's averaging 2 blocks a game and a couple of steals, and Embiid's averaging 2 blocks a game. And he's also averaging – the game against the Pistons, he had, I think, 17 rebounds, and they were all defensive. It's amazing. But you're not going to do anything if the coach isn't allowing the players to play the game right.
So we're pretty much on the same page with both of the teams. Would be they have the potential to make the playoffs, maybe not go far, but they at least have the potential to make the playoffs and at least make some noise if the coaches adapt accordingly or are, subsequently fired.
Yeah, you have to look at you have to play to your players' strengths, I think. I understand you have a system, but when you have a good system, you play to your players' strengths. I mean, that's the Lakers are a good example. The Lakers are shit this year with LeBron James. It was a huge signing, and all of a sudden, the Lakers are out there. They're 4-6 right now, which isn't bad, but they've played like shit. But LeBron, I feel like they do these things, and everybody gives LeBron a hard time about it, saying like he wanted all these certain players in Cleveland, now he wants them in Los Angeles, and he gets them. They're just playing like shit, and they're a whole new team. You had a couple of good players in Ball, and I think it's Kuzma and all out there that played well, okay, last year. They were a bad team, but they're young guys. Now you're bringing all these veteran guys to play with LeBron, and it hurts the young guys. They're not going to develop or anything, but they think that LeBron's going to guarantee them. It's not the Eastern Conference. He's not getting to the finals 9 years in a row. You got to go Golden State the other day. I mean, Klay Thompson had like 14 3-pointers in a game. They're ridiculous. I watched the series. Everybody was talking about. They had like 8 passes in one series that ended up with an alley-oop. Nobody could touch them. Defense had no idea what was going on. And those guys just flat out shoot the ball well. But then you look at the Sixers.
A little bit of an off-the-wall question. Do you think that LeBron would be having a better time on the Sixers?
That's a tough one. I think he would be doing better. I just think that he would be taking the reins away from Brett Brown because that's what he does with every coach. Like Tyronn Lue was his friend, so they got rid of their coach and let Tyronn Lue be the coach, and then LeBron is the de facto coach on the floor.
And then he leaves and gets fired.
Yeah, you have Luke. Yeah, exactly. And then you have Luke Walton. He's a decent coach, but it's LeBron. But they thought, oh, what do we do with LeBron? We have all this free agent money. Paul George isn't coming here. Nobody's coming here except for LeBron. We're not getting a trade for Kawhi Leonard. And we're going to have LeBron come in. We're going to sign Rajon Rondo. We're going to sign Lance Stevenson. Like, they signed a bunch of guys that you're like, oh, we're going to get these guys. Like, yeah, great. This would have been a badass team 7 years ago. LeBron's still at the top of his game, but you just can't. I don't know. It's just it doesn't work well with me with what they do with James. But then the Sixers, I think he would have played better, but he also would have demanded more. I mean, he's like, and don't kill me over this, but he's like Jordan in that fact where he gets mad at players on his own team, and everybody looks at Jordan with the Jordan mystique is that Jordan was the greatest and he elevated everybody and everybody was amazing. Jordan had set role players, but if you were alive back then and watched Jordan play, Jordan was chewing up his teammates, and in practice he was annihilating them, and he was a jerk off because he wanted to win. But that made them better. And LeBron's like that. LeBron they constantly, LeBron was yelling at this guy, or he was angry that this one did this and all, because he knows he's the best player in the goddamn league. And you're not playing up to the par, or you're not playing up to your role.
So do you think that would have been kind of probably detrimental to the progression of some of the Sixers players if he wasn't on the team?
I think he definitely would have shown. LeBron's 6'9", 265, and he can. If LeBron wants to be a straight point guard and average 18 assists a game, LeBron could do it. He's like Wilt Chamberlain that way with this NBA. If he wanted to just score 40 points a game, he could score 40 points a game. If he wanted to get 15 rebounds a game, he can get 15 rebounds a game. He can play any position on the floor, and he'd be better than anybody in that position. And I think he definitely would have helped Simmons. He would have smacked Fultz and just said, get your head out of your fucking ass. You're number 1 draft pick. You got all this talent in the world, and you're just fucking sitting around.
Right.
I think he definitely would have been better for the Sixers and better with the Sixers.
So LeBron James would have been a better coach than Brett Brown to this point in the season.
Absolutely. Jesus, I'm so mad at Brown right now. I can't even deal with him.
All right, so we'll get you off your little tirade since he's pissing you off. The Birds, which is actually they're looking all right now. They're coming off a bye.
Notre Dame's Golden Tate.
Yeah, Notre Dame's Golden Tate. Got a couple guys on the team. Zach Ertz was one of them that had Golden Tate, in their mind. Rumor has it they wanted Robbie Anderson before they wanted Tate, but they ended up with Tate, which I'm not mad about. Guy's 30 years old.
That's the best yards after a catch. I think he's the best in the league for the past 5 years.
Yeah, he's 30 years old. He's still got a couple years left that are going to be solid. I mean, they paid a little bit of a high price. They paid a third-round pick for half a season of Golden Tate, potentially if he leaves. But, I mean, we'll see about that.
Golden Tate's opening news conference, he came in. He said, we. All it was team.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you don't think Golden Tate's going to re-sign with the Eagles, that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's not going to go and turn around and be like, yeah, nobody's going to pay him at 31 years old to be Antonio Brown. He's not Julio Jones. You know what I mean? He's not going to get that kind of crazy money. But he's going to look at a team and go, dude, I got a team with Alshon Jeffrey's still here for 3 more years. Aguilar's here. Ertz is here. Dallas Goedert's here. Like, he's like, I'll stay. I can really flourish. And they can. If he's in that slot role, man, all you got to do is they love throwing those slot balls. Even Jordan Matthews, Jesus Christ, I never thought I'd say this in my life. Jordan Matthews has been playing well once he got his feet under him and got back into the game.
I think the biggest thing about Jordan Matthews and how he's done well is the fact that he's not the guy. Like there's so many people on the Eagles that, like they're constantly being shuffled in and out and in and out. There's so many people that can play similar roles to each other that you don't have to give the defense, like the opposing defense, the same look repeatedly.
But there was pressure on Jordan Matthews. Like, Jordan Matthews came in, Mike Wallace got hurt. Mike Wallace was brought in for the Torrey Smith role, which was just to be a burner. And Wallace is hurt right away. And the offense isn't doing that well because Alshon Jeffrey was out. So you bring in Jordan Matthews. That's a lot of pressure on a guy to come back to the city where you did well at. You got traded away. You come back, and everybody's hurt except for Aguilar, and you're like, oh, man, they're expecting me to be great. And in 2 games, he's okay, but next thing you know, he's stepping up. And I don't know, have you seen him? He's a fucking beast. Have you seen, you ever see him catch a ball, his arms and all? Like, he is a fucking monster now. Like, all he must have done in Buffalo is get somebody pregnant and work out, because he is an absolute monster now.
He said that's the only thing. He said he attributes his time in Buffalo to him being a father because there's literally nothing else to do in Buffalo except have kids. Literally nothing else.
And he's
and he probably just worked out and tried to get back to his because I mean at one point Jordan Matthews was a number 1 wide receiver in the league.
Well, he wasn't a number 1, but he was a number 1 for us because that's all we had.
Well, you know what I mean.
But now you come in with Alshon, and Aguilar really established himself last year as a guy that could be dependable. I mean, his first couple of years in the league, he's like Markelle Fultz. You just couldn't count on him for anything. And then all of a sudden, he gets freed up a little bit with Jeffrey, and he played great last year, I think. And he was dependable, and you weren't afraid to throw to him because you didn't think he was going to drop the ball. And now he's got that confidence, and now this year he's doing good again. Jeffrey comes back; he's healthy now, and Alshon just comes back, and you're just like, you watch him catch balls or the moves he makes, and you're like, God damn. Like, I can't believe we were lucky enough to get this guy. And then Matthews comes in, and you're like, all right, that's cool. Now you bring in Golden Tate. Golden Tate's he's going to feast. If you have
Carson Wentz is better and better with every single weapon that you give him.
You're talking about having 2 quality tight ends and 4 quality wide receivers. 2 of who are very, very good receivers in Alshon and Tate. And then you have Aguilar, I think, is that second level where he's a really good receiver, but he's not great and he's not very good. But he's a pretty damn good receiver. And then Jordan Matthews just does his job. Like, I'm excited because they finally gave Josh Adams some running attempts last week. Not this past week, the week prior, the last game they played.
And that's what a lot of people said when they did go out and get Golden Tate, that they probably should have gotten a running back and stuff like that. But I mean, a lot of people, especially local people, have a lot of faith in Josh Adams, whether that's placed because he's a local guy or whatever. But he was. It remains to be seen.
Everybody got mad. They didn't have LeGarrette Blount, who went out there and could just blast through anybody. The guy was an absolute animal. Adams is that guy. He's 6'2", 235, and he's fast. And at Notre Dame, he was ridiculous at Notre Dame. It's amazing he didn't get drafted, but he had a couple of injury concerns and all. So, all right, now you get him. Use him. What are you saving that spot for Darren Sproles, who hasn't played in 2 years and still isn't playing? Wendell Smallwood is the bane of my existence. Last week we were watching the game at my brother's house, the 9:30 game in London, and we're watching, and I'm like, I fucking hate Smallwood. And what does Smallwood do? He bursts through and gets a touchdown. Then he makes a good play again. And every time we look, my brother would look at me, he's like, Wendell fucking Smallwood. Like, he's just not a guy for me. I'm like, no, that's not a guy you count on. Like, Corey Clement came on last year and did very well and played well in the Super Bowl and everything. Adams is just that guy. There goes the UFO. Yeah, it's the first one all night.
Nah, there was another one. I didn't say anything. You were mid rant, so I didn't interrupt you. For those of you that don't know, Timmy lives under a friggin' UFO farm in South Florida.
What's the temperature at where you're at?
Let's see. Hold on, I'll look it up. Because I haven't been outside all day long.
Yeah. Is it cold?
It's it's like 50 something. It's
50 something.
But it's been rainy all day, so it's been a shitty day.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been 80 something and sunny here today. Like it has been for 165 years of recorded weather history.
Whatever, dude. It's 68 here tomorrow. What's up with that? It's gonna rain.
South Florida, dude. I told you, you're welcome to come down anytime. Come down and stay a while and enjoy yourself. Go to the pool. Drink some beers.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Give me a job first. I'll come down there.
Then you'll get a job and you'll say, you know what? I got to work. I can't come down.
So the Birds are 4-4. Thank freaking God they're in the NFC East. Because when the Redskins are your toughest competition to make a playoff spot, that's a good thing. They're 5-3. I'm
scared of the Cowboys right now.
Listen, the Cowboys are 3-4. They play the Titans. They play the Titans tonight, which they'll probably lose. In all honesty, so they'll be, I don't know, 3-5.
I think of the Cowboys now, like I used to think of the Cowboys just because of just an obvious hatred of the Cowboys that I was raised on. And then now, every time I think of the Cowboys, I think of that picture of Ezekiel Elliott with his little half shirt on and his belly ring and his hair and his bandana, and I'm like, oh my God. It's just, they're the fucking Cowboys. Like,
they're so annoying. I mean, it does suck that they got Amari Cooper because I used to be a big Raiders guy as far as fantasy football went. One time I streamed Derek Carr, Michael Crabtree, and Amari Cooper all in the same week, which was stupid because you can't have that many points from each team. But yeah, I used to be a big Raiders guy, so it's a shame that Amari Cooper went to the friggin' worst team in the league to be a fan of. So now I hate his guts because it's my civic duty. But yeah, I mean, if the Cowboys end up 3-5 tonight and then we beat them next week, we're 5-4. They're 3-6. That's looking good from that point forward and then the Giants are literally a non-factor.
Don't worry about tonight. What Sunday? What's the Dallas is coming off the short week. They only had 6 days rest instead of 7. Give me a fucking break. What's the Sunday Eagles Cowboys game? Sunday night, 8:00, 8:20. Who's winning that?
Oh, the Birds. I mean, they're coming off a bye week. They're a better team. They've scored, 40 more points on the season than the Cowboys have to this point. They're just a better team. But, I mean, where is it? Do you know where it is? Is it in Philly?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, we should have done that.
If Liam would have called in, it would have been nice. And I just got a text message. He said it's 2 a.m. where he's at and he can't get on. And he said if he got rowdy because we were talking about the Eagles, his mom would wake up. It's the greatest thing when the guy that owns the company, he owns the website, he's the editor and he's the chief, and the Eagles did their whole, like the Philadelphia Eagles did their whole interview and all with him a couple of weeks back prior to the London game, saying, hey, there's a guy who's running a website called Philly Sports Network. And it's really good. I mean, we get picked up on Bleacher Report for a lot of the stuff we do, and also it's getting to be well known. But they wanted to interview Liam, and I know you know this, but I'm just saying this for the listeners. They wanted to interview Liam, and they do it. And now the guy's right. He's like, I can't get online with you guys. I can't call you guys. My mom will get mad. Like, it's the greatest thing. The guy's he's interviewed players. He's been interviewed by the Eagles. He's had coaches on his show. Like, he's got a YouTube live show. He's got a Facebook live show. He's interviewed coaches. He's interviewed players. He's met people. He's had the Eagles call him and say, God, this guy is running the Eagles website from England. This is great. We got to get a feature about him when we're going to London. And it was on their website and all. He's right about his mom. My mom will be upset that I was up this late.
Hey man, it's conducive with the narrative that we put out. We are just a bunch of guys that just want an audience to, listen to us bitch. So Liam's the same as us, but just, better.
I don't believe that any of what he said is true. I think that he's probably, because he's a known sneakerhead. I know that it's 2 a.m. in England, and that kid is just polishing up the Air Jordan 5 records that he just got at the store. Like, he's in line for that.
When he went to London for the game, he definitely brought 2 suitcases, one for shoes and one for T-shirts, for sure.
Absolutely. He
really only needed one T-shirt. He only needed his Philly Sports Network T-shirt.
Yeah, he was out there networking. He was meeting her.
So
and he
had 2 full suitcases of shoes.
His videos and his Twitter feed and all that, it was hysterical that he was out there with all the – I mean – he really enjoyed it. He's like, there was so many fans over there, and they took over there's a guy who opened a bar over there from Philly who opened a place. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And he was in there. I mean, the guy went he went 5 hours to London just to be there for the weekend and enjoy it, and he enjoyed every minute of it. You see him, he's like a kid in a candy store. He's so happy he's around.
Oh, my God. Philly fans were getting him all drunk. He's getting his taste of Philly. He's ready to come here for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
If you haven't read that piece, it's really friggin' awesome. Go to, it's on the Philadelphia Eagles website. I think it's called, Why Is There an Eagles Blogger in England? You got to check that out.
Yeah.
His story is definitely one worth telling.
He's funny, but I know that he polished up those Jordans before he probably spent 3 days. I bet if we looked back leading up to the Eagles game in London, that there were probably 2 days where he didn't put up a lot. Like, normally he's putting up 4 or 5 articles a day. He's got the film room that he does. He's got his Facebook Live and all. I guarantee there was 2 days where we saw, if you could go back, I guarantee you saw his production drop.
Oh, yeah, because he was friggin' wasted.
No. I'm not talking about when he was there. I'm talking about before he got there. I'm talking about him polishing up the Jordans to make sure that he had his top. His sneaker game is the only thing he cares about, close to what he cares about Philly Sports Network, and it's his life. It's great, and I'm guaranteeing that he spent a couple days making sure everything was perfect for his wardrobe. He had 8 Philly Sports Network shirts on that looked like he just made them at his house on a printer. He's just so happy.
Yeah, right. Those sweatshirts are sick, dude. Those sweatshirts. I gotta get one of those.
I'm getting suspended from writing for a month after this. As soon as he hears this tomorrow, he's gonna be like, you know what? Don't submit any articles. Just give me some time to recover. I'll send him a $30 pair.
Yeah, you're gonna have to buy him a pair of shoes. Buy him some Vans. That's all we wear. All right, Timmy, so one piece of news that I actually do know about the Phillies, weirdly enough. Don't really follow them much. We're gonna have to polish up once that season rolls around. Maybe. I mean, we don't like it, so we probably won't. But Aaron Nola,
the biggest right now. Don't worry about Nola. You're in the biggest offseason the Phillies have had since probably 2000.
Okay, but I don't know anything about that. All I know is Aaron Nola is a finalist for the Cy Young this year, so that's pretty cool.
Aaron Nola's not going to get the Cy Young.
No,
He'll finish though.
Yeah, but still, he's a finalist, so there's some recognition out there.
Guy's an absolute beast, and at the end of the year, he had 2 bad games in his last 6, and it's not going to happen. Although, if you look at him, they should have, but he didn't make the playoffs. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
right now. You're looking at the Phillies with, I think, $160 million payroll, and they can put a ton of money into it. And everybody's saying Machado for third base or shortstop, and they're saying Bryce Harper. You're looking at adding $70 million a year to the payroll just for those 2 guys, but I don't know. There's a couple other guys that they talked about adding that are like $3 to $4 and $14 million guys, a couple of good pitchers, and I was just reading about it today. But they've set themselves up like the Heat did in basketball a couple of years back to get LeBron and D Wade and Bosh to sign with them. They've set themselves up with the money and the resources and the quality of players that they can realistically grab the top 2 offensive free agents. And I think Harper will play all of next year at 26 years old. And Machado will be 27 at some point during the season. He's a little bit older than Harper. You're talking about putting a third baseman who's one of the better offensive players in the game right now, and you're talking about putting an outfielder, again, who's one of the better offensive players, if not one of the best offensive players in the game, on the team. And I think the big thing today was that everybody was reporting was that Bryce Harper followed Joel Embiid on Twitter today and said, hey, what's up? Everybody's like, oh, shit, now it's coming. Because free agency started on, I think, Friday or Saturday. I think it was like 5 o'clock or midnight. It started on Saturday. It was free agency. And then like Clayton Kershaw re-signed with the Dodgers right away. There's still plenty of guys out there that are deserving that'll get some money and all. But the Yankees are out on Harper. They've already said we're out. They got plenty of young guys on the Yankees don't have to worry about. But the Phillies to be able to sign 2 guys like that, that puts them right back up in the top of the NL East. If they can get one of them, I think it would be decent. If they can get one plus a couple of complimentary pieces, they'll be good. If they sign both of them, Jesus Christ, it'll be out of control here.
What do you think? All right, so say they sign at least one of them. What's your prediction for next season? Since I can't give an accurate one.
They gotta be at 95 wins next year because the pitching was okay this year. They're hitting, I don't know what it is. Their hitting is just atrocious. They're 240, 250 hitting team. It feels like they just don't have anybody that hits for a decent average. Even Odubel Herrera is one of their better players, and he's just a Rule 5 draft pick that wound up playing very well, but he still doesn't do good. Maikel Franco, third baseman, and everybody's expecting him to be a star, and he's had decent years, but he's nothing great. He's not hitting 300. He's not hitting 270, 280. I think he's like 260 or 250. They signed Carlos Santana to 3 years, and he's a little bit older. Santana had a decent year, 80 RBIs and like close to, I think he had like 24 home runs, which is decent for your first baseman. He did what they expected him to do. He lowered his strikeouts. He had more walks than strikeouts this year, so that's something that the Phillies haven't had, I think, in like 10 or 12 years, is a player with more walks than strikeouts, a regular everyday player. But if they can get that, if you get Bryce Harper, you're looking at Harper's got to move from the outfield to first base eventually. You have 2 years left of Santana. Talk about your 3, 4, 5, and 6 guys being like Santana, Maikel Franco, Harper, and Machado. Jesus Christ. That's it. And Herrera's your leadoff guy. You got to find a spot. Scott Kingery played horrible last year, but he's a second baseman, and you still have Hoskins, who they had in left field and take some first base reps, but I think they have a decent team.
So we're saying 95 wins. I'll stick with you because I don't really, I don't know. So what?
How do you not follow baseball? Like, you grew up in an area where there's grass already. Like, you didn't play baseball when you were younger?
I played baseball when I was way younger, but I mean, it was just hockey. That's all it really was. That's where I made all my friends. So that's what I played mostly. Listen, man, I'm loyal to my team. I mean, even football. I wasn't huge on football until I'd say 5 or 6 years ago when I started playing fantasy. Just hockey was always the only thing
fantasy
that really got my.
Fantasy kills any loyalty, and I hate it because you have to draft players that are like, this guy's going to get points But like this year, I have Gronkowski on my team. I fucking hate him.
But
I hate him,
but he puts up points
as a player. I hate him as a Patriot. I hate him that he's not he's not an Eagles player at all. But guess what? Guy puts up points. Well, he didn't last night. He caused me to lose because I should have started my backup tight end, and I didn't because they said he was questionable, and then all of a sudden they ruled him out just before the game. So I got fucked on that, and he didn't play. But you hate, like, I'm an Eagles fan, and I hate looking at my team because I'm like, I have these guys that are just fucking players that I hate. Like, I hate everybody that's not on the Philly teams.
You're still rooting for them, though.
I'm just rooting for them to have decent stats.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Like, I hope this team gets blown out, but I hope my guy gets 2 touchdowns, you know?
Well, like, I have the Eagles defense, but I have Jared Goff as a quarterback. So if the Rams play the Eagles, then I want Goff to throw for like 350 and 4 touchdowns. But I also want him to throw for four picks, and 3 of those picks be returned for touchdowns by the Eagles defense. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I just have, oh, man, I got it. And then I get to the point when the game actually comes on that I'm like, I don't care if Goff has 0 points. Fuck him. I want the Eagles to win this game. I don't care if it's 3-0 and they win. Fuck Goff. I'll take 0 points. I'll take a loss in fantasy this week.
Yeah, but I mean, every once in a while you're like, fuck. Like, this has to play out perfectly to where the Birds win and my player does well. Because, you know,
I do that in my head every time one of my players plays against the Eagles, and then I immediately, as soon as the game starts, I go, fuck it. 0 points. I don't care. I have 0 points. I want negative points.
Negative points, so you lose. That's interesting. That's why you're not good at fantasy, Tim, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm like 3-5 or something like that.
Dude, I have no room to talk. In the league that I care about, like where all my high school friends play and stuff, I'm 2-7. My team is absolutely insane, and I'm 2-7, and it's just terrible. I don't even want to talk about fantasy anymore. It's disgusting. But in our league, I'm doing all right. I think I'm like 5-4 in our league.
Nice.
All right, what else we got, Timmy? We got anything else for him tonight?
I don't think so. We covered the Phillies that you know nothing about. We covered the Eagles, covered the Flyers, covered the Sixers. I still know nothing about the Union.
Yeah, I can't even pretend. I know they made the playoffs a couple weeks ago. I don't know if the playoffs have started. I don't even know if they have playoffs. Beats me. Go to the Philly Sports Network page for that. We can't help you there.
Yeah, we have Alex and Johnny joined the Sixers team on Philly Sports Network to write about the Sixers, and then we got actually a girl that's writing for them is Jewel Schmitz. I don't think she's put anything up yet. Just waiting to see what she does and all. But those guys, like last week, I covered all 3 of the games, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I didn't cover yesterday's, but Johnny Heller covered it, and they've been on point. And when we talk all the time every day, those guys are right for the Sixers, and they're like, oh, who's got the games? And they have work, and I get that. They work in school and shit like that. So I was just like, look, I got Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday's games. Sunday's just an off day, so you guys got to cover it. And Johnny's like, oh, I got it. So they put up good stuff in it, and they were getting picked up. I think both of them have been picked up by Bleacher Report so far to start the season. I had my stuff start getting picked back up by Bleacher Report. It just gets a little bit frustrating. We don't get a lot of views on that stuff, but
yeah, recaps are definitely a slave labor kind of thing. They a lot of work, not a lot of reward on them, but I mean, it's nice to at least have a constant presence for people to, you know, be able to read our opinion of how the game went and stuff like that. It's they're not the most popular thing in the world because we don't really like the whole clickbait thing. So we try not to do that as much as possible, and you know, as a result, that kind of thing kind of happens. But you know, as long as we can be there as a constant presence, that's good too.
I tell them, like, those guys are on Twitter all the time, and during the games, like, it seems like they're on Twitter 24 hours a day. As soon as the games come on, they don't. I'm like, guys, you're on Twitter. Just that's how you get followers. I gotta get people to read your articles and all. Like, just I'm on during the games. I'm on Twitter, just commenting shit and talking to people and everything all game long. And it seems like it goes dead. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is the way to get your shit up. You're watching the game. Why are you not just talking? Just talk shit. Just get on it and just be like, blah. I don't care. Sixers suck today. If they said anything, they're like, we're quiet. I'm like, all right, good luck, guys.
Yeah. Well, the Flyers are on. I gotta get to watching this. What else we got? We got Flyers are playing Arizona tonight. That's a big game. Finish off their road trip strong. If they can get 7 out of 8 points here, that'll be a really big deal. We got the Birds on bye. They're playing, I believe, the Cowboys next week, which is going to be a big deal for the conference as far as that's concerned. Timmy says the Sixers are on the up and up. Simmons has been doing a lot better. Yada, yada, yada. And Tim just left me. I don't know where he went. He's getting a beer because he's an alcoholic, always drinking that Coors Light. But as far as that's concerned, it's looking up in Philly at the time. We're looking to get to 500 as far as the Flyers are concerned. We should be good on that front. And you can hear Tim was opening his door. There he is.
Were you talking shit?
Of course I was talking shit, because you always leave with the most inopportune moments. What'd you get him?
Oh, Jesus Christ, no. But I was sitting here, and well, first of all, it's the Drink and Fight podcast, and you're not drinking, and you haven't been fighting that much. And I get the whole, for people that don't know, the whole kidney stone thing is killing me, because, and I get it, and Austin went out to New Mexico about a month ago with his friends, and he had this great road trip, and they were drinking and partying and all. And then he wound up in the emergency room with kidney stones. So I get that, and you're still not. It's the Drink and Fight podcast. You're supposed to drink, and then I've been drinking. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go pee. I don't care. I'm not. Just keep talking. You keep talking. I'm going to go pee. I'm not concerned with it. I'm sure that whatever you said was nonsense anyway. It was just filler. So
pretty much filler. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when I have a guy who is 85 years old and has to piss 24/7.
I peed one time in an hour and a half.
Can't be prepared. Always has to get up to get his beers.
So let me ask you a question. What are you drinking while we're doing the podcast tonight? Because that was the Drink and Fight podcast. We discussed that we would when we spent months preparing for this shit. Don't look around your. Don't look around your.
I've been really sticking to water. I've been sticking to water lately. I've been, gotta. I mean, that was. I don't know if you've ever. I don't know if you've ever had kidney stones, but I have. They're crazy. It feels like you got shot. So they say water's the best thing for it. I will no longer drink iced tea, even though it's like my favorite drink in the world. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And anything that says kidneys kind of scares the shit out of me. So I'm gonna take it easy on my kidneys for a little bit, Tim. So if you really were my friend, you'd be worried about my well-being. So thank you.
Worried about your well-being has been. Let me see. We did the first Drink and Fight podcast like 6 weeks ago. It took you, and you said, "Oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it on. I'm gonna do it on the road. We're gonna do it on the road. It's gonna be great. I'm going to have my computer with me. We're going to set up one night. And then and I get it. You're traveling across country. You're drinking with your boys. We're not going to do one. I got it. Then you came back. Then we did another one. According to you, the recording didn't work.
All right. You know what? I'll send it to Liam. He can put it out. It's going to be me talking to myself for an hour and a half.
You were sitting in your room. Last time we did the podcast that apparently didn't work. Although we did the same things we did tonight, and then all of a sudden, magically, you can hear me on it. Now, all of a sudden, it didn't work. Meanwhile, you spent a week playing Red Dead Redemption 2 just to beat the game, and now you're like, oh, dude, let's podcast. We're going to podcast. We're going to podcast every night. Let's do it every night at 7 o'clock. Like, you're ready to do it like it's a regular fucking radio show. After not, like, oh, man, I got to be a cowboy for a week, and then after that, I'm good.
Everybody's got to be a cowboy every once in a while, You know. Winter rolled around, you get in your bag a little bit, you sit in your room, and you're like, got nothing to do. Let me be a cowboy for a week. So I was a cowboy for a week. It helped me, and now I'm good.
All right, so let me ask you, how long did it take you to beat the game?
In reality,
don't add up the hours. I'm just saying.
No, like really, like 4 or 5 days.
We did the podcast 10 days ago or 11 days ago on a Thursday night, and you were like, dude, Red Dead Redemption 2, midnight, it's on my computer or on my PlayStation. I'm so excited. I was like, okay. And we ended the podcast early. We did like an hour and 12 minutes, and you were like, nope, Red Dead Redemption's up. I watched you. Like, I looked at your face. You were looking at it. You're like, oh, the more excited you could get. You're like, oh, you look at it. You're like, dude, it's downloaded. Did you drink tonight? I drank tonight. All right, great job. So see you later. And you hung up. And you're like, we're done. So how long, like, you got it Thursday night at midnight. When did you beat it?
So yeah, what, Thursday or whatever day that was, I was probably done by Monday. I really blew through that thing. So I've been
Friday,
done for like
Saturday,
a week.
so like 3.5 days.
Yeah, probably.
Now, what are you doing with the game? Do you go back and play online?
Online's not out yet. It's out like a month after the fact. So right now I'm just riding around being a cowboy, dude. Making my little, my ranch nice. Keeping my ranch all nice. Robbing people.
You have to make a ranch?
Yeah, dude. You gotta play it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, so... Yeah, like, do you have a posse?
Nah. At the end of the game, no. But I don't want to spoil it for people. So I can't.
Fuck
really
that! I'm not caring. It's been out. Like, the kids that really care about it already have it. So say, like, do you have a posse set up?
Nah,
so,
you
like,
don't
when
have
the
a
online
crew
version
anymore.
comes out-
But I mean, when the online version comes out, all my friends will have it, so we will have a crew. Yeah, we'll have a gang.
So don't say crew. Say posse. You're a cowboy.
Nah,
say,
it's a
you're
gang. It's a gang. That's what they call it.
It's not a. They didn't have gangs. It's not gangs in New
They
York.
literally
It's not.
call it gangs in the game. I'm just quoting the game, dude.
That's because they just want to be
But
Grand
yeah,
Theft Auto.
I'll have a
It's a
damn
posse.
I'll have a posse. So yeah, I'll have.
What is
I'll
your
have
character
a
like? Do you make your own character? I've never played it, so I'm asking you. Like, do you make your
No,
own character?
no.
Or what do you do?
The character is set in the story mode, but I don't know how the online's gonna work yet. It's not out yet, so I don't know.
Now, the first Red Dead Redemption, did that have online?
I think it did, but I never played it. It was on Xbox 360, so I don't know how it worked.
If you make your character, let's say for online, it's going to be like kind of chubby, kind of handsome, like a beard, and like you look like if you had a cowboy hat on right now, I would honestly think I'm like, Austin's doing this from Austin, Texas. 'Cause, like, you could pass for a cowboy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll probably be pretty accurate, pretty true to form.
So in another month, you're going to be on. I won't even. We'll just be like, oh, you want a podcast? You're like, dude, can we do it at 3 a.m. because the posse's having
you're screwed. You're screwed.
We're
when
doing
the
a
online
raid.
comes out. Yeah.
So I have to get Red Dead Redemption 2 and just build myself up to be a cowboy so that like we can podcast while we're doing a raid on
Either that or you can like permanently murder my character so that I can't play anymore.
Something you can do that?
No, but that would be sick. But that would really be the only way to get me off of that once it comes out, realistically.
Now, do you think what I heard was that it's got the largest interactive environment of any video game ever?
Bro, it would literally take me like 3 hours to go from each corner to the map, at least. It's insanely huge.
Now, is that because you're on a fucking horse, or is that just because it's so big?
Yeah, I mean, the horse definitely...
Is that trotting,
helps,
cantering, or galloping when you're on your fucking horse?
It's extremely aggravating. You gotta click X the whole time. My fingers hurt.
Is that true? Like, it's that big? Like, I saw a video of a guy on, I think it was on Twitter, and he's like, this is the best thing about Red Dead Redemption 2. And he's just sitting there for 3 minutes petting a dog on somebody's porch.
Yeah, damn right. Yeah, you can pet dogs. It's a whole damn thing, dude. It's really cool. But so yeah, I've spent quite a good amount of time just petting my horse so that we're friends. So.
Is it like a cowboy version of Grand Theft Auto? Like,
That's
where
exactly
you can
what it is. I call it Grand Theft Horse.
So you can pretty much do what you want to do. Like, you can just go around and like, can you just during the game? So I know you have missions or objectives you have to do. Do you have to go around? Like, can you go around and like you're just like, you know what, fuck this, I'm just gonna rob the bank today. Yeah.
The other day I was in like a saloon and some dude was standing next to me, and he said something stupid. So I was like, whatever, and I saved the game so that I could go back before I started the massacre. And then I just jumped behind the bar, killed the bartender, killed that guy, and then all the cops came in, and there was just a mountain of bodies in the middle of this saloon. So yeah, I mean, it gets a little gruesome. You can pretty much.
Did you make it out alive?
Oh,
or you're like the Billy? You're like the Billy?
Well,
the kid?
No. Eventually, you die, and then you just go back to your saved game, and then you're fine.
But like, you can't. I mean, could you realistically jump behind there, shoot the bartender, shoot the guy that was talking shit, run outside, jump on your horse, and go to your hideout?
Yeah, but then you'll have a bounty on you. You mean Tim? You really just got to buy the game. You're asking a lot of questions.
It cracks me up. You're dead serious in the fact that you're like, well, then you'd have a bounty on you. Like, how long's the bounty last? It's obviously not like
until you pay it, or until somebody comes and like kills you.
So just put $20,000 price on your head, and then you're just.
Realistically, that's just too much money. You can't have $20,000 in the 1800s. But like, I had a
$1,000 bounty on your head for Austin, the fucking
for
black
my character at the
Now-
time. Yeah, and then if the cops see you, they'll try and kill you, or you can go into like the post office and you can pay your bounty and you can be done.
Wait, you can go in and just pay your bounty and be like, "Look, I'm sorry. Here's $1,000."
Yeah.
Do you have cattle on your ranch?
Yes, I do. Are you done? Are you done with your? Are you done
No,
with your
I'm
Red
not.
Dead
Yeah.
questions? Listen,
Yeah.
look, people don't want to listen to us. People don't want to explain.
First of all,
People don't want me to listen to me sit here and explain to you for 40 minutes how to play Red Dead. If you want, I can explain
it
to you later.
amazes me that It amazes me that you said like I pet my horse so that we're friends.
Yeah,
so
you
that
gotta pet
build
your
a
horse so you
rapport
can
with
be
your
friends.
horse.
Yeah.
Like, do you have to? Do you go out and tend to your cattle? Like, are you living an alternate life where you're a cowboy?
Essentially. Yeah.
So you finish the game.
Yeah, you gotta chop wood. You gotta feed your cattle. You gotta milk your cattle.
So
That's the whole thing.
I can't. So during the game, you look at it and you're like, shit, I don't have enough wood to keep my ranch warm. I have to go out and just physically chop wood for 15 minutes here just to get this done so that my ranch is good so I can go out and rob something.
Really, I've never seen anything negative happen if you don't do the chores on the property, but like your wife bitches at you a lot more. So that's a big deal, I guess.
Are you an outlaw or are you like a good guy?
I mean, at the end of the game, you're really more of a good guy. You're like a family guy at the end, but I mean, like I said, I don't want to give too much away.
Everybody has it. Just give it away. What happens at the end?
Well, all right. So you're in a gang. You get, things turn sour with the gang, and then you go off and you do your own thing. You already got a wife and a kid, so you wanna protect them. I'm done telling you about Red Dead.
I need to know.
I will send it to you. I will literally mail you my PS4.
No, I don't. I need to know at the end of the game, like when you beat it, what happens? Like, do you just go back to your ranch and you just milk
That's
cows?
exactly
Like,
what happens. You literally beat the game, and then you're on a cliff, and your wife bitches at you that you need to keep the ranch clean, and that's it. And now I can just ride around from town to town, and I can kill animals and hunt, and I can kill people.
You hunt.
Yeah, legit. Like you hunt like deer.
Can you just go out and just like go around and just like start killing people and get a lot of bounties on your head and then just go have like different hideouts?
Nah, not really. You can't like make a hideout. You only have like your one base, but you can like rent a room at a hotel and stuff and hide there.
No, but you can't have like a place in Mexico that you go to where you just hang out with your boys or like it's a safe house.
I mean, maybe online, but that's a whole nother gig. That's really what you want me to be telling you is the online, but I don't know anything about it yet. That's the kind of thing where like I'll be able to have hideouts all throughout the map and all kinds of fun shit. My little brother just beat it too. I said my little brother just beat it too. You should be talking to him. He knows a lot more than I do.
So now the two of you can start your own posse once the online version comes out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a big deal. He's already said we're gonna hold up every single general store on the entire map. He's excited.
So he's a definite outlaw.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he does not.
And
want to
you're
be a good
just
guy.
a farmer.
Yep.
You bought this game for $60 to be a farmer to chop. Like
$80.
it sounds like you chop wood.
I paid for the special edition.
What does the special edition get you?
You get some extra shit. You get an extra horse, which died, so I'm pissed about that. You get like
so you can't get that horse
kit.
back?
No. Nolan Patrick almost just scored. It's Travis Konechny. I need to watch this game, Timmy. We need to get off the podcast.
I'm amazed that your life is like you're not working, you're not podcasting because of your kidney stones and your issues, and you're just sitting there. You're like, no. You're like, oh, I can't. I'm so. You don't respond to texts for like 3 days, and then all of a sudden...
That's normal, though. That's normal for me.
We get online, you spit out a bunch of Flyers facts, and then you turn around and you're like, dude, Flyers are on, I gotta go. This is so important. What you're going to do is watch the Flyers game, and then after that, you're going to go back to fucking chopping wood and shit.
Nah, I'm going to play Fortnite. For sure. Oh, yeah, we forgot. The Fortnite and the NFL are doing skins now. That's pretty important. That's relevant. The Eagles skin is sick. I can't wait to get it. Neither can Tim, because Tim definitely plays Fortnite. Or at least he watches his niece do it or something. Whatever old people do.
No, I'm not playing Fortnite.
I'm going to teach you to play Fortnite when you get back.
I refuse to because I like to carry a machine gun and a sniper rifle and to shoot people. I don't want to build.
Because you're a Call of Duty camper. That's exactly what you are.
I'm a good killer in Call of Duty.
All right. Well, this was the Drink and Phight podcast. I'm done answering questions about technology for Tim. That's the end of the road for us.
What's the score of the Flyers?
Flyers 0-0 with 8 minutes left in the first. I need to watch this so that I can keep trying to pretend to be knowledgeable. Yada yada yada. You all right? Are you satisfied with Red Dead? Your Red Dead answers?
I'm not. There's so many more questions I have.
Well,
about
then
you
after we shut this down, I'll explain some more stuff.
There's so many questions I have about you being a cowboy and just like this alternate life. You're like Dwight in The Office in Second Life. Like,
oh, you should have seen me in Nashville when we just went to New Mexico. We stopped in Nashville. I was trying on cowboy hats and shit. It was sick.
Oh, don't do that. Like I feel like in Red Dead Redemption, like when there's online, you're just going to be the bartender. You're going to be the bartender. Standing back, you're gonna run. You're gonna tell your wife.
Flyers just scored. Tim, let me get off of this podcast. Giroud
all right,
scored.
dude.
All right. This is the Drink and Phight podcast. Make sure you follow me and Tim on Twitter so you can see us argue on there about Red Dead and the Flyers.
Next week we gotta get next Monday night when we do our podcast. We'll get Liam will be on. We'll do a little bit earlier. Liam Jenkins will be on hopefully, and we'll get our first actual guest is the Angry Giants fan, is Mike Party wants to.
Yeah, we'll get Party on here too.
He wants to call in and talk about his Giants, and there's nothing that I want more than just to beat him up over his horrible, shitty
the 1-7 Giants.
Yeah, so it'll be good.
Yeah,
we'll do that next week. We'll get some people coming in, and we'll have a good time next week, and hopefully your homestead will be safe. You'll have plenty of wood for the winter time.
I'm fortifying. I'll be good. I'll have plenty of time. I'm gonna get back on. I'm gonna have a beard because I've been I've been away for so long to do this damn thing. So.
Do you have to shave? Are you serious?
You gotta shave. You gotta get haircuts.
It sounds like the worst game ever. It sounds like just living your life as a cowboy.
All right, whatever. I'll send you videos.
All right, I'm getting out of here. We're done.
Make sure you follow Philly Sports Network, Austin C. Mitchell on Twitter, Tim Sullivan PSN. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Tim Sullivan PSN.
Yeah,
that'll be fine.
On Twitter, whatever you got to do. And then we'll do this again next week because I will actually be on time this time, and we'll have fun.
Look at you, back to like being a man. I'm so happy
with my responsibilities and shit.
All right, we're out of here. We'll see you later.